My name is Joanna and today I'll talk about the Cold War that happened from 1945 to 1990. The great powers split Germany into occupation zones, recognized a Soviet-backed government in Poland, and partitioned Vietnam. The talks were meant to forge a lasting peace, but within 18 months a Cold War began that lasted more than 4 decades. Though the two nations were technically at peace, the period was characterized by an aggressive and costly armed rise. Bloody proxy wars fought across Latin America, Africa, and Asia, and competing this for world dominance between the US-led capitalist government and the Soviet-led communist bloc. But why is it called the Cold War? The term Cold War had existed since the 1930s, when word Freud was used in France to describe increasingly fraught relationship between European countries. In 1945, shortly after the United States dropped the atomic bomb to Hiroshima and Nagasaki, British writer George Orwell used the term in an essay that explored what the atom bomb meant for international relations. How did the Cold War begin? The Cold War began an unsatisfaction on the part of the Soviet leader Joseph Stalin with the results of the post-war military and civilian facilities that Russia had presented. The diplomat George Kennan exposed mistruth between the Soviet Union and the United States, causing Washington to apply a policy of containment to prevent the spread of Soviet ideology and influences in the country. But why was NATO created? In 1949, the United States, allied with other countries, formed a mutual defense alliance known as the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, or NATO. This to sign a treaty where they agreed that an armed attack against one or several would be granted an attack against all members of the organization. After that, the USSR responded to NATO by creating its own defensive spirit. This was signed in 1955, known as the Warsaw Pact, that includes the Soviet Union and 7 other satellite states including Poland and East Germany. How did the Cold War end? In 1991, the Soviet Union had lost most of its bloc due to democratic revolutions, and the Warsaw Pact was formally dissolved. In December of 1991, the USSR dissolved into separate nations, opening the country to the West instituting economic reforms that removed institutions that depend on nationalized assets.